Hello, everyone, and welcome to YF 500 Foundations of Youth Ministry with me, your professor, Dr. Tom Combs. Welcome aboard. Glad you're here. Looking forward to the journey that we have together over the next 10 weeks. So, to begin things, I thought it would be helpful for me to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll tell you about the class, and we'll get going from there. So first of all, I currently reside in the United States of America in a little town called Rome, Georgia, in the northwest corner of the state of Georgia. I've lived there for maybe a year and a half now. We used to live in Atlanta, Georgia. We made the move to a small town and have loved the transition so far to small town life. Here is the lovely town of Rome, Georgia, about 35,000 people, built on 7 hills, just like the big Rome, Italy. So hence our name. And here's our quaint little house in the old part of the town of Rome. Here's a picture of my family. We had a chance to go to Maine and Nova Scotia, Canada this summer. So we took a picture from the top of Cadillac Mountain in Bar Harbor, Maine. So this is my lovely wife, Wendy. This is my daughter, Ansley, who is about 11 years old. And this is my daughter, Lucy, who is almost 7 years old. Nope, she's almost 8 years old. A little bit about me. When I was a younger guy, I was your typical high school kid right here. Here's a picture of me as a 10th grader on the track team at our school. If you can't see me, I am this guy right there. Here's me, a picture of me in action during track practice in high school. And here's kind of where I normally ended up in track practice, which was right here, bringing up the rear. But it's okay. I developed a lifelong habit of running now, which I continue to do to this day. So at least I have that going for me. But here's the point I want to tell you. My own personal journey is this, that when I was a tall, skinny, insecure high school student, I was a churched kid, but I didn't have any idea at all what it was like to have a relationship with Jesus. And there was a high school coach who took an interest in me and some of my friends. And even today, all these years later, that coach, who was a tremendous influence on us in terms of our spiritual formation, is still a good friend to this day. Through the power of relationship and persistence and faithful following of Jesus he modeled for us, we were all impacted and changed. It influenced deeply my own journey with the church and the youth group that I was a part of. So I have to tell you that today, as this guy here, who was at the back of the pack of the track team, now gets to be this guy here who is married to this lovely lady here, and I get to be the dad of these lovelies right here. And I couldn't be more grateful for the way that the Lord has impacted me, particularly when I was an adolescent, to equip me to be a man of God following after him today, especially with the responsibilities of being a husband, a wife, a full-time worker in ministry, and a part-time teacher at seminaries like Fuller Seminary. Let me tell you a little bit more about me professionally. My current role these days is I work for the Ministry of Young Life, which is a parachurch ministry focused mainly on outreach. Our mission statement is that we are an outreach ministry committed to introducing adolescents to Jesus Christ and helping them grow in their faith. Here's a picture of me with some high school guys that I took to a Young Life summer camp in British Columbia one summer. Here's a picture here of a middle school camp we have in operation. Camping is a big part of what we do in Young Life, but everything we do in Young Life is built on the context of relationships of trust. And so you'll hear a lot from me this quarter talking about the value and the importance and the necessity of relational youth ministry. I've been on Young Life staff for over 20 years now. I've worked direct ministry with high school and middle school students. My primary role these days is as a staff trainer, so I train new full-time Young Life staff. And I tell you what, I love what I do. I wake up every day and I can't believe sometimes that I get to do what I do. I look forward to going to work every day. And for somebody who's been a veteran of youth ministry, I have to tell you, when I have conversations with my peers, I recognize it's pretty unusual to be this far into your vocation and you wake up every day and you're grateful for what you get to do. So the journey for me has been awesome in ministry, and I've loved every minute that I've had to work in it. And I love now taking some of those experiences and some of the learning that I've been able to do through the years to translate that into equipping others to do ministry. So I hope you'll hear that from me as we go along in this course, because I really do love to teach and share and encourage folks like you in their journey in ministry. So here's a little bit of educational background, if this makes you feel any better about me. Graduated from the University of Georgia with a pharmacy degree. That was my first profession. And I do have a pharmacy license. I'm a registered pharmacist still. Don't practice pharmacy these days because I got other things to do. But later made a transition into youth ministry. Got an MA from Denver Seminary in youth and family ministry, and then later got a doctorate at Fuller in youth, family, and culture. Let me tell you a little bit about the class now. Here's the purpose of the class. It really is going to be focusing on foundational concepts. So we'll spend a good bit of our time talking about history, about psychosocial development, contemporary culture, and those will be the building blocks or the posts that we're going to build ministry on. I want to make sure you really hear me say this, that we're not going to talk as much about the best or the newest or the most innovative programs at the expense of understanding what all those programs should be built on, and those are key foundational things. So we will spend a good bit of our time looking at key foundational elements, and my hope is that you'll understand those principles and foundations well enough that you'll be able to contextualize and create a ministry that also reflects your particular setting, your context, where you are. So we'll give you practical tools for realistically creating a ministry that's solidly based on foundational principles, but also reflects where you are, your setting, and the people that you would minister to. What are we hoping to accomplish here? Well, really what I was just saying, that you understand those foundational principles of ministry, that you understand them in light of a comprehensive theological framework for understanding ministry, and that you know how to integrate those into an effective ministry strategy. You'll need to understand our context, which is adolescence, and it's divided into 3 stages: early, middle, and late adolescence. So we'll talk about those categories. We'll also talk about ministry from a relationship standpoint too. That'll be a key emphasis of what we talk about, with the large goal overall of creating a culture of adoption in a ministry setting so that adolescents are integrated into the larger body of Christ. So that will be our key emphasis, and you'll hear me say that over and over again as the course goes along. The readings from your class will be based on these 4 books right here: Adoptive Youth Ministry, edited by Chap Clark. We'll have a reading from Hurt 2.0. Not all of the book, but in E-Reserves, there's some chapters from Hurt 2.0 that I want you to be familiar with. I'll have you read the book The First Year Out, which is a book, a longitudinal study of adolescents who made their transition from their high school year into their first year out of high school into college or the workplace or the military. Some pretty fascinating research on what happens there. And then the book Growing Young, which is relatively new, but a great way of understanding some key ideas that seem to be in place in churches where their ministry to young people, and that includes early or emerging adults, the late adolescent stage, where they're thriving in ministry to young people. So we'll want to know what those key things are that move us towards a thriving ministry to the younger segment of the population of a church. And then lastly, I'll also have you read 1 chapter from a book that I really love called You Are What You Love by James K.A. Smith. If you haven't read that book, I would just recommend it to you anyway. If you have time for extra reading, it'd be a really, really useful book for you. If you're thinking about really how do we shape ministry, not just to adolescents, but to anyone, because he takes a unique, novel, maybe we would say Augustinian approach to ministry. I'll leave it at that, but that's James K.A. Smith, You Are What You Love. Okay, so how's the course going to be laid out? Well, I think we're going to follow a format. If you've had online classes with Fuller before, we'll follow a similar format, but it's going to require online activity. It'll such as listening to a lecture like this or watching a video that I may post on the class. There'll be assigned reading every week, and essentially there'll be 2 forum posts. One, this is typically every week, there'll be 1 forum post for the lecture content, and then there'll be 1 forum post to reflect on the reading for that particular week. And then I'll ask you to respond to at least 1 other student in the class with regard to their forum post. And so that's a pretty typical format for a Fuller online class. Key thing I want to emphasize is that you really need to stay on schedule, because a key part of your forum activity is reading and interacting with fellow students. So I'll be watching your post to fellow students to make sure, A, that you are doing those posts, but B, also to see how you're interacting with the ideas that your fellow students are presenting as well too, or how you're interacting with their reflections on the reading or the lecture content so far. So when we get into the breakdown of the course, you'll see just how vital these forums are for the class. So the course schedule, like I said, reading forum post on Tuesday with 1 response to a classmate by Wednesday of that week, then a lecture content forum that's due on Thursday, and a response to 1 classmate's post by Friday of that week. So that's a pretty consistent rhythm throughout the class. But of course, if you're thinking, okay, the class starts on a Monday, every week starts on a Monday, and I got a reading forum on Tuesday, well, you need to be reading ahead. So by the Thursday of every week, you probably need to look at your reading for the next week, start getting that done on Friday or over the weekend when you can, so that you're ready for the reading forum on that Tuesday that comes up. So just make sure you stay ahead so that you follow the pattern and can stay on pace. Here's my thoughts about late forum posts. The forum posts are such an important part of the class. If you miss the forum post, if you get to it late, for instance, so say it's a forum post due on Tuesday, but you don't get to it until Thursday, you won't get full credit. And that's pretty reasonable, right? So I won't give you full credit for that. I'll take essentially a letter grade off. If you miss that week's forum post, you don't do it at all that week, I'll give you 1 more week to get the forum post in, but obviously at that point it's not really helpful to interact with other students because they've moved on. So I'll only give you half credit for the post. After that, the forum is closed down and you won't be able to get any credit at all. But I'm going to be pretty gracious about that, because I want to read what you're thinking with regard to that week's content. That really helps me know how you're tracking with the class. So let's just hope that we're not going to have any late forum posts, or you're not going to get behind on that. That's a key part of these classes anyway, but I'll be a little gracious in case you do get behind. You can still get at least partial credit by getting it done the next week, okay? If you want to know more about forum grading, see the details in the syllabus. I'll tell you more about my philosophy of grading, how I choose to grade. I don't just give away grades in the forum post. I'll just say that from the very beginning here, okay? So we'll say more about that in the syllabus. Let me just say a little bit more about the course schedule. In week 2, there'll be a quiz that'll cover the readings from HERT 2.0 and a document that I've created called A Brief History of Youth Ministry in the West. That's available in the week 1 module. HERT 2.0 readings are available in e-reserves over on the left-hand column of the course. So you don't have to read the entire book, just the chapters that are selected there. And then the quiz will cover just 10 multiple choice questions from HERT 2.0 and A Brief History of Youth Ministry in the West. The midterm will be our signature assignment for the course, and it'll cover readings and lectures from weeks 1 through 5. I'll tell you briefly what the midterm assignment is, but there's more details available in the course and in the syllabus too. But essentially, We're going to watch the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower. It's a 2012 movie that captures, I think, in a lot of really helpful ways, some visual pictures of the kind of things adolescents deal with in a high school environment. And your assignment will be to look for some of the key terms and concepts and ideas related to adolescent development, to some of the early ministry ideas that we introduce, and some of the cultural realities that are present in the lives of middle adolescents. And you're gonna write a paper reflecting on where you see those present in the characters, and then you're going to end the movie by at least musing what would be the approach to minister to one particular character in the movie. So I hope it'll be entertaining, but also very practical and helpful for you. The final project will be, of course, at the end of the course. There's detailed information in the syllabus about this and also at week 10, but I'll say this for now. The final project, you can choose one of three options. You can either write a summary paper that's detailed in the class. If you're more of a creative type, you can create a narrated PowerPoint or a video. You can be as creative as you want to in this, but it would be a summary of the course in video form or in a narrated PowerPoint form. More about that you can find at the end of the class in week 10 for more details. Or the third option will be a traditional comprehensive final exam that'll be a mix of true, false, multiple choice, and short essay answer questions. Okay, so there are extra credit options in the class as well too. So in weeks 3, weeks 4, and week 7, there'll be some short videos that you can watch, and then you reflect a kind of a takeaway from the class. You'll post that online, and you'll get credit for watching the videos. The reason I do this is because mainly it's just really difficult to make everybody happy in a class where you have a lot of subjective grading like forum posts. So again, I think I'll give you pretty clear expectations for what I'm looking for in forum posts. You can find that in the syllabus. But just to avoid any dissatisfaction with the way that I grade, I might be different than professors you've had before. Here's how you make it up. If you don't like the grade you're getting, then make sure you do extra credit, because I'll add a total of 3 points to your final grade if you do extra credit there. Okay, so that should alleviate the concern that we have about whether or not you think my standards for forum posts are not meeting your standards. I think we'll get along just great if you'll do extra credit. Okay? All right. Speaking of grading, here's the breakdown of things here for us. I mean, you know the grading system: A, B, C, and F. Anything below C is an F. Here's the grading scale that I'll use, where you can get an A minus, B plus, B, etc. Of course, anything below 70 is considered failing for the course. I don't think that'll happen, but I should just let you know. Here's the breakdown of percentages, how things work in the class. The forums, the lecture forum and reading forums combined together contribute 40% of your grade. So again, this is where most of the work is done in the class. This is how I can tell that you're tracking with the content from the class in regard to lectures and readings. Really, really important. That multiple choice quiz on HERT 2.0 and the Brief History of Youth Ministry in the West readings is 10% of your grade. The midterm is 30%, and the final project is 20% of your grade. Okay, a few other notes for you here. If you have questions during the course, I want to be available to you for sure. So if you have a question about something that doesn't look right in the course, or there's maybe inconsistency where I've said one thing in one place and it sounds different in another place, look, it's entirely possible. I am not inerrant when it comes to setting up these courses here, but I want to make sure I'm clear. So if you notice something that looks out of line, send me a question on the course question forum at the top of the class. You can also email me directly if you need to. You can see my email at the bottom of this screen right here, but it's also available in the syllabus and in other places you can find it, tomcombs@fuller.edu. You can reach me by my cell phone too if you need me. That my number is posted there too. I would say usually email or a question forum is the best way to reach me. I'm usually pretty good about responding to those. If you have an emergency kind of situation, please call me. If you need to text me, I know that seems to be an easy way to reach people, but it's just hard for me to know who people are when I get a text from a phone number that I don't recognize. So I would just say your best bet. A general question about the class, use the course question forum. If it's a personal matter, something that you need a response to your unique situation, then email me. If it's something more urgent, you can call, and then probably the last option would be sending me a text message, okay? Let's say it this way. Since I am on Eastern time zone and you could be anywhere else in the country or the world, if there is something urgent, you can send me a text message if you need to, just because of consideration for time zones. If it's daylight in your part of the world but bedtime in my part of the world, then send me a text message. How about that? Okay, last few little things right here. Again, the course syllabus is posted in the class, so I would say read through that for more details. If you have any questions about anything that you read in there, contact me via course questions. I've also created a document that's called the weekly schedule that tells you what the readings are for that week. It also has reminders about what forum posts are due that week. Lastly, I would just say stay on pace. The course starts a little slow, but it moves at a pretty steady, predictable pace after that, and you really do want to work hard to stay on track, okay? You know that if you've done classes already at Fuller. If this is your first class, I can't emphasize enough how difficult it is to climb back out of the hole if you get behind. So plan ahead, stay on top of things. Hey, looking forward to having you in the class.